This is legitimately my favorite couple of weeks of the year. The NHL playoffs are starting. It's round one. We are about to have 4 games of great hockey every single night. There will be crazy multiple overtime battles, goals, and controversies we'll all be talking about. I just cannot wait. With that being said, I want to take a second to invite all of you guys to the official X YouTube bracket. Almost 5,000 of you have now joined, which is insane. I initially said I'd give a jersey away to the person who came number 1. I said I'd up that if we got to 2,000. With 5,000, we're gonna need to find something else. That being said, the link is down in the description. You have until, I believe, the games start tomorrow night to get your bracket in. Tonight, however, I am going to give you guys my picks. Now, to keep my bracket somewhat anonymized, I don't want you guys copying mine and my Nostradamus picks. I have blurred out some of the secondary information, including how many games I think each series will go. After I go through mine, I've asked Brandon, who contributes to writing and editing for the channel, to give his bracket, so I'll go through that as well. All right, Series 1, Colorado versus Seattle. I think it's no surprise that I will be taking the defending Stanley Cup champions for this series. They will not have the help of Gabriel Landeskog. However, we do know that Cale Makar is good for Game 1, and given that he's, if not the best defenseman in the world, one of the best defensemen, that is massive. Aside from Landeskog, Kemper, and Kadri, Colorado is basically the Colorado it was when they won the Cup last year. McKinnon is an absolute dog. They've got the experience and the talent to go, not only in my opinion, past the first round, but even further. Next up, Dallas versus Minnesota, and as with Series 1, I took the higher seeded team for this one. Everyone I think knows I wasn't high on Dallas coming into this year. I thought they were too old and poorly structured, but man, did they prove me wrong. I thought if anything, Ottinger would be the one maybe giving them a chance at success, given how purely good he was in the playoffs last year. But Jason Robertson had 109 points, while Jamie Benn and Joe Pavelski have been almost a point a game, which was not what I was expecting. Ottinger came out of the season with almost a .92 save percentage, and if he can perform under pressure like he did last year, I can see Dallas being very, very deadly. The Wild also had a weak end to their season and are also without Eriksson Ek. Minnesota, however, does have their own superstar in Kirill Kaprizov. He kind of surprisingly only got 75 points this year, though he did miss 15 games. But even his points per game total was a slight downturn. I do think that this series will probably be closer than maybe any other in the West, though, and I wouldn't be surprised whichever way it goes. Moving on, though, we have Vegas. Once again, I think for every team in the West, I end up picking the top seed, which, to be honest, I always feel bad doing, but it's like, if that's how I feel, I'm just gonna do it like that. Anyway, Vegas over Winnipeg. I'm actually so happy that Vegas is back in the playoffs because they're such a fun villain team. I don't know. I just think they're a level above Winnipeg. Jack Eichel will hopefully be healthy. He was about a point a game player this year. Some people probably wanted more, but I'm curious to see what he can do in his first ever playoff appearance. We just heard that, shocker, Mark Stone will be playing Game 1. However, it's not like Vegas is a super high-flying offense, and maybe this is where Winnipeg has a chance. Hellebuck is unreal. He had a .920 save percentage throughout 64 games this year. And I know I mentioned this in my other preview, but I've been a Rangers fan for a long time. I've seen what a determined and great goaltender can do in the playoffs, especially where you steal 1 or 2 games and you've got such a good chance. Winnipeg did also have to fight for that last playoff spot. Maybe that means something. All right, next up we had Edmonton and LA, and I remember at the beginning of the year there were some Edmonton fans raising alarm bells. Well, the second half of the season really calmed them down. They had the best record in the second half of the NHL season, and they ended their season with a 14-0-1 stretch, which is, you know, not too shabby. Draisaitl obviously was hurt last year. Hopefully him and McDavid can stay really healthy, as can Kane. The Oilers were the hottest offensive team this year. I watched as many of their games as I could. I am just a bit concerned how well that translates to playoff hockey. That being said, McDavid is probably the best player that I've ever had the chance to watch live. I think he'll get it done. Goaltending is obviously a concern for the team. Obviously, Stuart Skinner will be their man, which is a shame because if they could have got the Jack Campbell from a couple of playoffs ago where he backstomped the Leafs, they'd really be talking. All right, moving now to the East. We'll come back into the second round later. Obviously, I have Boston beating Florida. I'll just say this is one of the few sweeps that I've predicted. Boston, I just see them as a team of destiny. I don't know how anybody can beat them 4 times in 7 games. I just don't know how it's possible. They are so good. They pretty much have the most deep 4 lines in the NHL, arguably the best first line in the NHL. Their D-core is unreal. Everyone talks about Charlie McAvoy. When I watch the team, Lindholm, home, he's the one that always really impresses me. And obviously, Ullmark is having one of the best years any NHL goalie has had in a very, very long time. Now, there's some concerns that the flu bug is hitting the locker room, but I think the team's going to be fine. Swayman is a more than capable backup. Obviously, Ullmark is the preferred choice, I think. This year, it's been pretty clear, but they'd be happy with Swayman in the net too, I think. I just don't think Florida has the tools to fight the Boston Bruins, and to be honest, I don't know if any team does. I covered the Tampa-Toronto series in my shorter playoff preview, so I'm not going to dwell on this too long. I do think it is the year Toronto takes it, and I'll just say this one, I think 6 games. If I were a Lightning fan, I would really miss Ryan McDonough right now. He's such a solid guy in the playoffs, where Toronto has gotten tougher since their meeting last year. If the big pieces on Toronto can play like they did in the regular season and Ryan O'Reilly comes through, I think they should take this one, maybe even a bit easier than some are expecting. All right, Carolina versus the Islanders, and this is actually one of the only upsets I have. Not even really an upset. This is one of the lower seeded teams I have moving out of the first round. I think this is going to be a very, very close series. The Islanders are very defensively responsible. Sorokin's a phenomenal goaltender, and I think that kind of play translates very well to the playoffs, where sometimes more of the run and gun teams like Florida last year struggle. It's a pretty deadly combination when your defense isn't giving up much, and Sorokin is back there saving way more goals above expected. And the thing is, I say all of this completely seriously, despite the fact that Carolina actually gave up fewer goals per game. I don't know what it is about the Islanders. To me, I had them written off, but they managed to turn their season around, and I think their success will carry on in the playoffs. I don't know. That's just how I'm feeling, but I think this is going to be a very, very long, hard-fought series, as will the final series of round 1, my Rangers versus the Devils. Listen, I'm a Rangers fan. I will never, ever take the Rangers out of the first round. The Devils are going to be a tough matchup, and they've actually played the Rangers quite well this year. I just think, /hope, Shesterkin achieves his usual playoff form, and that the Rangers see scoring across their lineup like I expect them to. I actually think the Rangers have a very strong third and fourth line, but I mean, the Devils also have Timo Meier on their third line, so it's going to be a great series. I'm very excited to probably hate Dougie Hamilton for the next couple of weeks. As a note, the Devils do have 2 former Moosehead players, Nico Hischier and Timo Meier. By the way, if you didn't watch the vlog I posted earlier today, go check that out. But honestly, because of the bias, I'm going to take the Rangers in round 1. I think I've done a pretty good job of breaking down what I like about all the teams moving forward, so I'm going to more briefly hit the subsequent rounds. All right, in round 2, I have Colorado beating Dallas, and I have Edmonton beating Vegas. The Edmonton-Vegas one, I totally went back and forth on. I couldn't decide which team I thought would have the better chance, but I'm going to give it to McDavid. In the East, I have Boston over Toronto. That will be an amazing series. We'll be truly lucky if things play out that way. Then I have the Rangers over the Islanders. In reality, though, as a Rangers fan, that matchup, a really defensive-minded team, it scares me. Then for the conference finals, I have Colorado beating Edmonton. I think their experience, their team play is just too good. Then I have Boston over New York. And in the NHL Stanley Cup finals, I have the Boston Bruins defeating the Colorado Avalanche. The bracket site doesn't ask for how many games played, so I think they're going to do it in 6. And that is my complete playoff predictions. And if that happens, I don't think anyone would be surprised for my official choice of Conn Smythe, Ullmark. All right, very quickly, I'm going to go over Brandon's picks. He had Avalanche over Seattle. He seems like that's a pretty easy choice, as the Avalanche are rolling into the playoffs looking to defend the cup. He has Minnesota over Dallas, but he says both teams are pretty even. He decided to go with the team that had the Moosehead covers. Then he has Winnipeg beating the Knights, because there's got to be a good first round upset. He has that one going to game 7. Totally agree with the idea there needs to be a first round upset, and I feel always really weird, as I mentioned, when I just follow the higher seed when making these picks. He says he feels like Edmonton either has a deep playoff run or they implode in the first round. He likes them though, so he has them beating the Kings in 6. The Bruins are ridiculous. They are his only first round sweep. He has the Leafs over Tampa. He believes this is the year they get out of round 1, and they had a good regular season series against Tampa as well. Carolina was one of the best 5-on-5 teams this year. You need even strength scoring in the playoffs, and he doesn't like the Islanders. He also has a note that in past NHL games, he would move the team from Long Island to Halifax, so Islanders fans, stop coming after me and start going after Brandon. He says the Rangers are going to channel their inner Sean Averys and beat the Devils' young guns, who are getting their first taste of the playoffs. Then he has Leafs over Bruins, Rangers over Hurricanes, Edmonton over Winnipeg, and the Avalanche over Minnesota for a rematch of last year's conference finals. However, he believes that the Oilers Oilers will come out on top, reaching the finals as they play the Toronto Maple Leafs for the Cup, where obviously he says the Leafs are going to win, because until they win, I can't take them to not win. Brandon, as you may have guessed, is a hardcore Leafs fan. He says, and I quote, because how stupid will I look when they finally win in 70 years and I don't take them? Anyway, those are our predictions. Think we're wrong? Make sure to scream at us in the comments, but more importantly, to join our NHL Bracket Challenge. Just a reminder, the link to that is in the description. The first time we mentioned it, we were initially using Office Pool Junkie. Now, thankfully, I think less than 300 of you signed up on that link, but if you did, make sure that you've now migrated to the correct NHL.com link. But that's all. See you tonight as playoffs begin. Let's go.